Reborn to be Wild by Ed Underwood is a 2010 release by David C. Cook Publishing. This is an excellent work. You could say that this is two books in one, two books that I found a joy and a pleasure to read, but also challenging and soul-searching throughout. I was expecting this book to be all autobiographical, Ed telling his story of his journey through the Jesus movement, but the autobiographical section of the book was only the first third of the book, with the next two sections of the book examining where the Jesus movement went off the rails and got stuck beside the tracks, and then also looking at how the movement could get back on the tracks, and how a new generation could get on board to a new moving of the Spirit today. Now, I gotta say, Ed doesn't pull any punches. At times, I'm sure every reader of this book will think what I did at various points, which is, Ed, why are you writing so pointedly about me? We don't even really know each other than a couple of conversations, and we didn't know each other at all in 2010 when you wrote this book. I believe Reborn to be Wild will most likely resonate with and hit home closer to boomers who read this book, who lived through the Jesus movement, and those who are hitting those prime years in their 50s to their 70s. But as someone who is 41, who was born in the early 1980s, I believe this book also has much to say to us who only know the Jesus movement from stories we've heard and the Jesus Revolution movie. But if you have a few moments, I would love to tell you a little bit more about being Reborn to be Wild by Ed Underwood. Welcome to Rev Reads. If you want to discover more books that will encourage you to walk in the power of the Spirit, please subscribe to the channel in order to stay up to date with my latest book reviews. Also, please like this video, give it that thumbs up, and also, if you could, I would love it if you would share it with other people on social media to help them know about the works of Ed Underwood. So overall, I have mostly positives to say about this book, with really only one negative, so I want to get that out of the way now. At a few points in the book, Ed speaks well of the emerging church movement, which I think is probably stalled as a movement based on what I can tell. Now, Rob Bell and Brian McLaren are still out there, but they aren't experiencing nearly the impact on American churches as they were about 15 years ago. But the poor theology of the movement became clear after Ed's book was published, and I think it's a shame that they're put in a favorable light in this book, but thankfully their impact has already been muted over the last 5 to 10 years. And outside of mentions of the emerging church, this entire book was fantastic. Ed is a great storyteller, so I was engaged throughout as Ed shared his own journey to faith in Jesus Christ, the experience he had as one of those wild teens and youth in the Jesus movement, and then the sad response of established churches to that movement. As a pastor today, what I wouldn't give for a few Jesus movement guys to come randomly knocking on my door, wanting to learn about the Bible and walk through a discipleship journey. And I'm just shocked to read the way that they were treated by the established churches of that time, who really needed the life of the Jesus movement, and they turned their back on it. Now, the bulk of the book is not Ed's personal story, as engaging as that was, but it became even more soul-searching in the next two sections, as Ed first walked through 6 lies that his generation embraced that he believes stalled out their revival. And what makes that section so stinging for those today who were too young for the Jesus movement is that we're walking in those same lies. Some of us were raised in those lies. Lies such as more is better, and that's really about a thirst for more and more knowledge for the sake of knowledge. And then the view that churchianity is enough. If we just build up the right programs, if we keep spinning on our hamster wheels, we will develop into godly Christians. when Christianity cannot be limited to the walls of our church. Even if those walls are expanding, we still got to get out to the world. And then there are other lies such as power is good, and we largely seek that power in politics today. And then bigger is better. Man, I constantly measure my own worth as a pastor, not on my faithfulness to do the work of the ministry, but on the size of my ministry. And Ed's words were like a healing balm on some of my own personal struggles. Then we have the lie that enemies are all around, and this chapter was really about giving in to our fears and constantly viewing the world as our enemies and not those that we need to share the gospel and the good news of Jesus Christ with. And finally, there's the lie that it's all mine. And that was a really strong chapter on worry. When we're grasping for everything and we're viewing everything as mine, 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 we end up becoming controlled by our fear because we're afraid that others will take away what is mine. And that Ed transitions from the lies that we accept that can stall out revival to the mindset we should put on for a revolution to be reborn. And for me, this is really 5 chapters about getting our mind set back on the person of Jesus Christ. You see, really all those lies that Ed goes over are really just distractions to take our eyes off of Jesus. And how can you have a Jesus movement if you're worried about church buildings, your possessions, your positions, political advancements, and constantly thinking that everything's out to get you all the time? You can't have a Jesus movement because you're thinking about everything other than Jesus. We become like the soil in Jesus's parables of the 4 soils that got choked out by the weeds. But by putting our focus back on Jesus, it's like putting weed killer on all those thorns that choke out our productivity for Christ. And so Ed gives us a series of only statements that can counteract the lies that stop revivals, that turn them astray. Jesus is our only hope and our only hero. He is our only goal and our only gold. He is our only treasure and our only investment. Jesus is our only community, care, plan, and power. And all of these onlys are designed to fix our eyes on the King who is coming back to take all of our fears away and to put all of our hopes upon him. So we get great lines like the following, which is my favorite in the book. The reason you and I pull back from the threshold of becoming his disciple isn't that we don't know what to do. It's because it's hard. And we're not willing to trust him to take care of us if we do. And then we get multiple calls that we need to get back to the basics in order to have revival. We need to get back to the old gospel of Jesus' death and resurrection and salvation being given to all those who believe in him. We need to get back to having conversations about the person of Jesus. So it's really all about looking to Jesus, focusing on him, and all the practical ways to clear out the garbage and the distractions to get our eyes set on Jesus so we can get the revival train moving again. This is a great work by Ed Underwood, and one that everyone who is interested in advancing the name of Jesus should put on their must-read list. Let's all read Reborn to be wild.